Thanks, everybody. So, yeah, this is a little corny, but can everybody just hit the screen with, no, just, hey, Kelly. Matt, Jessica, I'm like recognizing people, I want to say hi. Can we all raise our hands and just inhale with your palms really wide open and then that's it. Where do I start? I actually did prepare a presentation, so I know exactly what I'm going to say. I'm just debating when and how to cue music. But Laris said patterns, Creative Mornings. You said don't worry about the theme. But I'm actually kind of obsessed with patterns, so I was really excited by this prompt, except in my life, the patterns, the language of patterns is the language of rhythm. I'm a drummer on top of being a bunch of other things. And I'm going to tell you my origin story on how I got to that sort of self-ascribed. Hey, oh my God, I know like a few people here. Okay, great. No pressure. So I am the Executive Director of Asian Arts Initiative. You should all visit. We have a great exhibition up there right now called the Dream House Music and Video, and an ongoing music festival called Sound Type, where we're doing our best to put musicians and writers in a feedback loop so that we have more dignified writing about music from the Asian diaspora and beyond. So that's my plug. We're on Vine Street between 12th and 13th, north of Chinatown. My origin story begins with a midlife crisis, like a lot of things. I was working in publishing and then went into advertising. And I loved it. I actually loved it. I loved everything I was doing, but something about it just didn't feel right. And I don't know how many of you have been in really awesome jobs, but still somehow felt just like existential terror. Like, this is so awesome, and I want to jump off a cliff, right? So that was my crisis, and I couldn't figure out what exactly was going on. But I realized maybe what I needed to do was just emancipate from work entirely. And I have a bit of a startup bug in my family. I guess it's coded in my DNA, as it were. I have a grandfather and a father and all my uncles. Were business entrepreneurs, some of them successful, some of them not. And then I kept working for startups, so I just sort of thought I need to start my own company. And the aspect of the work that the thing about the stuff that I was doing that felt most important to me was working with people who, like myself, felt like they didn't have quite the accurate rhythm for who they were. They weren't represented accurately, or there wasn't enough of us, or just what was out there was bad, right? And in my life, that sort of looked like, I will play music, screw it. Okay. This was a really big hit when I started my business. But there's a legible downbeat in this song, right? Like, you're supposed to dance to it. I was playing a little house music earlier, but it's really obvious where the downbeat is. And that's what I needed my work to be doing. I needed it to be legible. So I started a company called Massive Goods. It is still, I still technically, it still exists, but it is a clearinghouse of queer and feminist art and writing from Asia, mostly gay Japanese erotica. I'm showing you just some of the clothing and accessory line that we created, because I don't want to show you pages of books, and also it's really hardcore. So this is my way of sort of interpreting hentai into a more popular mainstream, because I knew that it was sort of embedded in a lot of what I was seeing in pop culture. Also, this was just a really fantastic time to be doing really strong, positive, cultural, personal representation. These were the Obama years. It was the teens. Everybody was really happy. Look at him. Did anybody watch the debate? I didn't watch it, but okay, yeah, let's not talk about it. So a lot of what I was doing was actually gathering people. I was hosting a lot of nightlife events and live drawing events, and just hanging out. Hanging out with people was my favorite thing. And I know a couple of cartoonists here will understand what I mean by this, but I was that one psycho who actually loved tabling at cons. I mean, I just loved meeting people, hanging out. And yeah, so life was great. The business did well. We did a couple capsule collections with opening ceremony, which in the day meant, like that was pretty much as high as I could get. And I was producing a lot of books. A couple of them won Eisner Awards. I gave myself a means to get to Japan several times a year, which is exciting personally and professionally. I started working with other kinds of artists, namely with a coalition or a consortium, I guess they would call it, of architects and then designers. It was really cool. Just so great, like my dreams had come true. And then before I knew it, 5 years had passed, and I was really pushing the envelope. I felt really strong. But it was a bewildering time. And then 2016 happened, and then, leadership changed. And I'm not saying that the president dictates the time signature, but, things just sort of looked wonky. And I actually cared a lot, and then I didn't care at all. And then I was just looking at pop culture and at our heroes and feeling a little bit bewildered. How we defined our heroes and villains just became so complicated. And it wasn't just the ones that were doing stupid things, it was the ones who were doing things like this, right? So in my context as an Asian American, I guess while I was delivering a lot from Japan, I didn't feel like I was at all enmeshed in any sort of, I wasn't enmeshed in the grassroots, literally or figuratively. Well, not literally, because that's insane, but I just didn't feel connected. And our heroes, our own representation was just so wild. Like, what the heck? I like this just because he's I'm not going to go down there. He's just interesting to me. Andrew Yang. I feel funny talking about him at an investment company. He tends to be lionized by folks who understand that alternative economies mean alternative political representation, which is what we all want, right? So I was just lost, and everything just felt like I couldn't see reality anymore. But I knew from what I had been doing for the last 10 years as a professional that everything I do has to be important. That was something I learned about myself. Whatever it is that I'm doing has to be important. So that was my next midlife crisis. What I'm doing is not important enough. So at that point, a friend pointed me toward Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is so funny. Let me start by saying I came here, I tried really hard to make sure when I was coming here, it was to be in Philadelphia. And the fact that I was getting a job here was a separate second decision, right? Like, I want a job and I want to move to Philadelphia. But, this was like something I read in Philadelphia Magazine the year I moved here, and I just thought, okay, well, that's definitely something. And I got a lot of this in the first couple of years that I was here. And the funny thing is, I was like, you think life is chaotic and everything's a crisis until you do something like this. And then you're like, oh my God, no, this is actual chaos. This is freaking bananas. This is my child, by the way. I'm not like showing somebody else's C-section. And I knew you all would be prepared for this after eating oatmeal. So, and that was 2019. And then this happened, fucking how to wash your hands. So, it was just, this sign everywhere to me represents 2020, 2021. On top of there being a viral epidemic, obviously we were all there, I think. Again, just sort of the symbols and the signs and the order signification, everything was legible, nothing was legible. This was my life for 2 years or 3 years. I think it was for all of us, right? Just figuring out a way to be cheerful leaders, inspiring kids, representing our brands, dying of thirst. It was just really hard. But we figured out other ways of doing things. So I was really learning a lot from my son. That's a porta potty. So as the executive director of the Asian Arts Initiative, I was learning a lot about community organizing, placemaking, placekeeping. A lot of this is jargon, to be honest. It's really just about connecting with your neighbors, being neighborly, doing what's right, having a legible downbeat. And I learned that being Asian in America was never going to stop being complicated. I don't know why, this is like the funniest thing to me. Fast and Furious actor and wrestler apologizes profusely on social media for offending Chinese fans by calling Taiwan a country. That was what he did to offend Chinese fans, was saying Taiwan was a country. I kept reminding myself everything I do has to be important. I wasn't really sure if that was happening. What's important when everybody's dying because of this disease, and what's important when people are being shot because the police exist? I don't know. It was really hard. So another midlife crisis moment. I'm calling them midlife crises, but they're really inflection points. Anybody over 35 will probably recognize this as a weekly ritual, right? Like, ah! So they're just inflection points. I just want to show this because I want everybody to know I was really cute once. This was after I gave birth, and I was really proud of myself for feeling my hottest at 43. Shit, right? So exciting. So I realized, I think somewhere in here, that one of the reasons I was having this like weekly existential crisis was because I actually wanted more than anything to be an artist. But I also wanted to do more than anything. There's nothing I want to do more than to serve artists. So it was sort of like, I want to be an artist, I want to serve artists. I didn't know if they were mutually exclusive goals, if I could sort of do the two things together. And so it became my job to find the nexus, the meeting point. And I worked in I think the last 3 years, just kind of at the apex of the pandemic through the coming out, was just self-discovery, just a lot of self-discovery. I did a lot of soul searching. I thought a lot about astrology, about ikigai. I have a lot of problems with Japanese aphorisms being adopted into American mainstream, so please understand all of these images are kind of shared with my tongue in my cheek. Except for the shoulder rub, I think that's pretty much who I am. Spent a lot of time on this. And then I started drumming. Drumming was something I was doing a lot as a young person. I put it away because I thought it was something only young people did. I was in drum corps, I was in marching band, blah, blah, blah. But when I found it again in 2022, I realized whether I was successful or not had nothing to do with my arts practice, and that was the reason why I was so confused. Because leadership has to be successful. Like failed leadership is not leadership. That's like in ways that can be interpreted as unethical or even criminal, right? Really bad leadership is so detrimental. Really bad art is actually kind of cool. Failing at art is really cool. And not succeeding as an artist is kind of repetitive. Like, I mean, you know, most artists are not succeeding. Most artists are not leaders. And I really like that. And I realized I am of service to the arts by being an artist. That was a really profound realization for me. Which led to a different kind of midlife crisis. I didn't know if I was supposed to be doing this. You know, like another thing about the arts is you want to feel like you have been called. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about being an artist as being a channel to the arts. They're translating something from a higher place into the world. And I just wasn't sure. I wasn't seeing the signs. I want to share just this funny thing. I didn't have a drum set yet at the time that I resumed playing, and there's this music store in South Philly near my place called Venuti's. I don't necessarily recommend it, but if you're in the neighborhood and need to buy a clarinet or, you know, some sheet music for your kid, this is the place. But the funny thing is, Dennis, the owner, has a basement with his own drum set in it. I went in there just kind of off the street and was like, do you by any remote stretch chance have a rehearsal space? Now, I want to pause and actually add, I'd actually had the tremendous privilege of getting access to UPenn's music department through a friend who let me just kind of sneak in and use their music rehearsal space and drum set. So that was cool. But then I felt weird about that too. I was like, well, this is so ridiculous. Like, I'm going to a state-of-the-art music rehearsal studio at an Ivy League college, you know, and I just felt like I deserved something a little more down to earth. And this was really down to earth. This was like subterranean. It was just so. Dennis, so cool, very, very South Philly, you know. And I'm playing there, and then as soon as I would stop playing, he just like pop his head in and just like ask a bunch of questions. And then I was like, oh my God, this isn't private. Like I'm not actually getting any privacy. And this is kind of a long-winded anecdote, but just to say, I started kind of moving around town, going to work, riding around on my bike, literally asking the universe, like, please send me a sign that I should be like setting up my own studio. Please send me a sign that I should be, you know, I should have my own room, whatever. And I kid you not, like, I swear to God, it was like a week later, on the street, I found this. I swear on everything, somebody curbed a snare drum, this hi-hat, and the stands. I'm not making this up. This was on the street one day. And I looked around and I was like, somebody must be in the middle of hauling out, loading out. And then this like mom-looking person came out. She's like, oh, do you want that? She's like, please take it. My son stopped playing that like 2 years ago, just clearing out the basement. I'm like, wow, okay, amazing. What? Like is that not a sign, right? Yeah. So then I found a studio, and which I'm still in, very exciting. And then I started playing with my friends, and we started to form a band. And then I thought, again, I got in my head, I'm like, God, am I supposed to be in a band? Am I a cliche of a 40-whatever-year-old mom woman who, you know, is going to try to be in a rock band or whatever we're calling ourselves? And I was a little bit embarrassed to be seen as like, there's no like female corollary, but like the Viagra commercial of everybody playing guitar, like it means something. Like I didn't want to be that cliche. I was happy to keep playing in my studio, but I was just terrified of being seen as whatever. I just needed a sign that I was supposed to be here. And I kid you not. So this is several months later that I'm having this whole existential crisis in my head again. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. I saw this, this is what I found on the street. By the way, I don't know what's going on in South Philly that people are getting rid of drums like this. It's really insane. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is I'm learning to pay attention to the universe and the signs. And at the risk of sounding a little bit contrived and putting like a really clean bow on all of this, I learned that the pattern in my life was a syncopation. So here I was looking for a legible downbeat, and what I was really needing in my life was to pay attention to the rest of the time signature, right? So if you're looking in the space of just like a bar of music, like where else can I put that accent? So I continue to have midlife crises, but they're a little more enlightened. And I'm really excited about my next one. I think I'm learning a lot at each of these inflection points. So syncopation is the idea of placing the accent somewhere other than the obvious place. You know, the Star Spangled Banner is really obvious. Oh, ba 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 ba, right? And then I'm sorry I'm teaching you Music 101, but I feel like it's important to hear what that sounds like. Whereas